Happy June and happy Pride. Celebrating pride in all of us. All this month, Richard Skipper celebrates those that are making a difference in the LGBTQ community. Never gossipy. The antidote to a sometimes hectic world. Now, here's your host, Richard Skipper.
Happy Thursday, everyone, and welcome to Richard Skipper Celebrates. Happy June, happy Pride, happy 99th birthday to Judy Garland. Full disclosure, I am a huge Judy Garland fan. I was actually 8 years old when she passed away, and my mom will tell you that I threw myself on the floor screaming, "I can't go on. I can't go on." But of course I did. Maybe she defined me in levels that I didn't even know about at that time. But today we're going to be celebrating Judy Garland, Fire Island, and a lot more, because we have the one and only Seth Sikes in the house.
Hey, everybody.
I am a huge fan of Seth. I have been so fortunate to have Seth appear in one of my live shows, actually, when we were celebrating Liza Minnelli. And I couldn't think of anyone better than to be here today as we celebrate Judy Garland's 99th birthday. So not only do I want to thank you, but I also want to thank Scott Gorenstein for being the man behind the curtain, pulling all the strings today. And I want to ask, how do you describe pride, or how does pride define who you are?
I guess it took me a long time to get behind pride, because when I was younger in high school, it was the rainbows and all. It seems just sort of kind of scary to me. And I used to not like to wear rainbows, or, I thought the parade was kind of scary and all that sort of stuff. But after, I've been in New York now for 19 years, and seeing what it really means to be a part of a community, and what it means about our history, the people and what they suffered and the things that they went through to fight for us to be able to live the lives that we live now. It actually means a lot to me.
Mm-hmm. I do want to let you know that your speaker is a little hot, so you may want to turn the speaker down just a hair, so that the sound is a little bit better. But I want to ask you, where did you grow up?
I was born in Paris, Texas. It's one of those things that's it's a town that's always a punchline. You say, I was born in Paris, Texas.
Well, you weren't born in Paris, Illinois.
No, I wasn't.
No,
but you were?
No. But I'm going to ask you, what movie, Judy Garland movie, is Paris, Illinois mentioned in?
The Harvey Girls. And
you win the prize. So, I
was born in Paris, raised in Paris, brought up in Paris, something. Bred in Paris, Illinois.
Paris, Illinois, great. You win the prize. So, do you have brothers and sisters?
I do. I have a brother and a sister.
And where do you fit in?
I'm the oldest.
Okay. Now, I always like to go back to the 5-year-old self, because the 5-year-old self, to me, is the purest self. It's before you start school. Peer pressure is put upon you. Teachers are defining who you should be or who you shouldn't be. And what were you like as a 5-year-old growing up in Paris, Texas?
I loved Judy Garland since I was a little boy, and I discovered Judy. I'd seen Wizard of Oz, of course, but I really discovered my love for Judy through a VHS tape of Summer Stock. Mm-hmm. That was my obsession. And so I remember just, going around the house singing Howdy Neighbor and all these songs. but not it wasn't just Judy. I loved Singing in the Rain. So one day for show and tell, I brought my enormous Singing in the Rain poster to school for show and tell. And I remember staging in kindergarten or first grade, on our recess break, staging a production of Wizard of Oz. I would cast people and stage the production. So I have been drawn to show business, and specifically show business ladies, since I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that really answers your question, but I think I've always sort of been.
Well, it's very funny because everything that you just described, I did the same thing. In our show and tell, I bought a huge movie poster of Disraeli that I had actually gotten Joan Bennett to sign for me, which was a major thing for me. So you and I were pretty much on the same trajectory. But
this is going to upset you. What was the movie?
Disraeli.
Oh, I don't know. I've never seen it.
Well, it's a very early film with George Arliss and Joan Bennett. But I want to ask you, I mean, it's one thing to be drawn to these iconic divas, to celebrate them, to want to hear their music, to perform their music. But it's a completely different thing, to want to pursue a career in this business. What was the defining moment for you that you said, I want to etch out for myself a career in show business?
Well, yeah, it really comes down to my teachers. When I was, even though I loved movie musicals, I was a band nerd and kind of a choir nerd, and I sang at church and things like that. But I didn't know anything about theater until when I got to high school, and I saw my, high school's production of Into the Woods, and the choir teacher said, I think you should audition for the musical. And I was like, ooh, really? I'm going to be in a show? And I was in the ensemble of Once Upon a Mattress. And then I sort of just started to discover musicals, Broadway musicals for the first time. Les Mis and Phantom and Rent and things like that. And just got completely obsessed with musical theater. And then, my teacher would take some of us to Dallas to see the Broadway tours. Chicago, I was, absolutely mad for. And then they saw that my love for it, and I was a pretty good singer, and they decided, and then I was an okay actor, and they put me in a production of Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. By the way, some people said I was the gayest Jesus ever. Oh no, that was when I was in Godspell. I was the gayest Jesus ever. So, and then I just loved it, and I was sort of a natural at it. And my teacher sat me down one day, and she said, "You know that some people make a living doing this, right?" And I thought, "Really?" She goes, "Yes, some people. This is a career for some people." And she handed me this little brochure, and she said, I think you should check this out. And it was a brochure for, I don't know if you remember it or heard of it, but Anne Ranking's Broadway Theater Project.
I sure do. Absolutely.
It was, I don't think it's still going, but she used to run it. And I think I was a sophomore or junior. And I went there and I met theater kids, real theater kids for the first time. And I was like, this is the world for me. Sorry, band. I was a drum major. Sorry, choral scholarships. I want to work in the theater, because all these people, I've never met people like me who just, we walked around singing Rent and Music Man, and it was amazing.
Now, did you have a lot of exposure in your household to the arts? I know that you obviously have these VHSs of your favorite films, but were your parents really into the arts at all? Not
really. No. My dad's a baseball coach, and my mom my mom got really into going to see musicals as I did, but no, they weren't the ones to expose me. My aunt Stacy is the one who really loved old musicals, and she would show those to me. She was sort of my gateway into it.
And did you go to college right after high school, or did you come right to New York?
I moved to New York 2 weeks after I graduated from high school, because I was going to go to school at Circle in the Square Theater School, which is where I went. And I chose it because I wanted so badly to be in New York.
Now, Had your family ever traveled to New York prior to this?
Yes. My high school choir and drama teacher took some of us up here when I was about 16 or 17, and we saw Broadway shows. And then my mom and I came up together, and my aunt, when I came up to audition for schools, so she got to see it. But no, I hadn't been here. You know, our family vacations were in Branson, Missouri.
Mm. Now, how did you make the move to New York? I know that you were coming to come school here. Did you know anyone? How did you get acclimated? And how long did it take you to actually feel that you were a New Yorker?
I knew some people here through from the Broadway Theater Project, actually. And my first roommate was somebody who I'd met there, and he found us an apartment in Astoria. It was so cheap, and it was great. And we drove, me and my mom and my grandmother and my aunt, all the way from Texas with all my stuff, 24-hour more plus drive, I think. And I knew I had an older friend who'd gone to high school with me who was also a student at Circle in the Square, and but it didn't take me long to make friends. I immediately got a job as an usher at shows like The Full Monty and Proof, the play, and then I got a job selling programs at Gypsy, starring Bernadette Peters. So she was a huge idol of mine in high school, and so suddenly I'm selling programs for her production and getting to meet her, and she's nice, and she gives everybody a Christmas gift at Christmas time, and I really thought, oh, I'm in it now, I'm in it.
Great. That's great. And when did you first start auditioning in New York, and how long did it take before you got your first real taste of being a professional actor in New York?
So this is where my story kind of goes into a different direction than one might think, because I no longer consider myself to be an actor. So I finished musical theater school at Circle, and I think a couple days later I auditioned for Fame, the musical Fame on 42nd Street, which was running off Broadway, as a replacement, and I got the job. And I played the trumpet too, so I played the trumpet. I was the character who plays the trumpet. I got the job, got my equity card, and thought, boy, I'm set. I'm gonna get in this off Broadway thing. It's gonna run a while. I'm gonna make some money. I'm gonna get in another show. But it closed after 2 weeks, and there I was, 21, 20 years old with my equity card and not a lot on my resume, and not a great dancer, an okay actor, and I started to realize pretty quickly two things. I was a terrible auditioner. Terrible. I had terrible stage fright, that's the word for it, jitters, anxiety, and two, there just didn't seem to be a lot of roles for me. And part of the reason why I learned later is that I can't really sing pop music. In school, they would assign music like Pippin or even contemporary like popular musical theater songs. It just doesn't really sound right on my voice. So I was going in for like Spring Awakening, trying to audition for Spring Awakening, singing like pop songs, and it just didn't work. It's just that wasn't my thing.
Well, let me ask you a question. I mean, were you auditioning for these shows because you thought that this was the thing to do, or were you auditioning because you really wanted to be in these shows?
I think because they were the shows that were happening at that time, and I had just graduated from school and I wanted to be on Broadway. So those were the shows I was auditioning for. I don't think I ever thought. I think I realized pretty quickly in school that my place was not going to be my place in the theater was not going to be as an actor in musicals. I thought, I was like, I couldn't be in the chorus really because I'm not a good enough dancer. I'm not a terrific actor. Too effeminate, all these things. I just didn't see a path for me.
Well, I want to step back for a moment. I know, for myself included, getting the equity card is the holy grail for a lot of performers. And what you just described is a huge pitfall for a lot of entertainers, actors who get their equity card so early in their career when they don't have a body of credits underneath them. And do you feel that getting the equity card as early as you did was a huge detriment to the career path that you were on?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would probably have, worked on non-equity, summer stock things like I would have probably gone on. Now, I'm actually sort of glad the way it turned out because I figured out I had a completely different path in the theater. I had a completely, we can talk about this in a minute, but as you know, I worked as an associate director and assistant director mostly for the last 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So actually like 15 years now. So I've had an interesting different path, and I'm not sure that I would say I would regret it, but I do think that getting my card that earlier was a hindrance as far as it comes to being a working professional actor in musical theater.
Well, how did your first opportunity come along for you to be an associate director?
So I went through a mourning process when I started to realize that I wasn't going to be an actor, I wasn't going to make it, and I was depressed. And but I still, I love the theater. It's my home. They're my people. I think that people, a lot of people, and who don't quite, I hate using this word, make it, realize that there are many other places for people in the theater. I mean, there are casting directors, there are agents, there are writers and producers and all stage managers. There's just so many things, so many people and positions that come together to make live musicals. So I wanted to be a part of it, and because I've always had a slightly critical eye, I mean, guess who doesn't? My friends always said, you should direct shows, and that was appealing to me. And I thought, well, I'll go back to school for directing. And actually, I'm going to name drop a little bit. Steve Sondheim told me, he said, no, don't go back to school. Just get in the room with the best directors in the business and learn by watching.
Thank you, Steve Sondheim. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve Sondheim. And once again, I think he was right. I mean, I've since decided that I don't want to be a director, but I assisted Jack O'Brien and Lonnie Price, and I've assisted David Cromer for many productions over the last several years, and it made me learn. I learned a lot. And one of the things I learned actually is that I don't want to be a director because it's such an overwhelmingly stressful position. And I was like, if I'm a director, if I'm in this position directing show after show after show, I'm going to have a heart attack before age 45. But that's how I got it. That's how it. What's that?
But you did co-direct over the course of several years.
Yes, I was assistant or associate direct. Yes.
Yes.
And I had some great experiences doing that.
So when did you first become aware of the New York City cabaret scene? And what were your early desires as far as how you would fit into this genre, which is not too far off the path of where you already were? How did it begin for you?
Well, interestingly enough, and I feel a little bit guilty about this, that I don't see a lot of cabaret. Partly because I see so many shows. I never really saw much. I mean, occasionally I would go see a friend who would invite me, but I never went to see the big famous people. And later I started seeing, to see Marilyn May and I saw like Chita Rivera's nightclub act and things like that. But I feel a little bit guilty because I have stepped into the cabaret scene, and I have not made it a priority to go very much. So, but a sort of tangential thing to it is that I spent a lot of I always say I grew up at Marie's Crisis. I did sort of. I spent even though I wasn't performing, I was spending 4, 5, 6 nights a week at the piano bars.
Wow.
And so that would include Don't Tell Mama. I would be there sometimes. And actually, I did a cabaret there with a friend when I was very young. It was the two of us just singing the songs that we liked. It was not a great show, but
I worked at Marie's Crisis. That's where I met my husband. Yes.
did you? What,
Yeah.
you a server?
I was a server there over 31 years ago. You
Oh,
weren't
wow.
around.
He worked what?
I said you weren't even around.
Oh, no, I wasn't. Yes, I was.
But anyway, well, I will say this. You know, I also discovered the piano bars early on in my career, and it was a great training ground for me. I would get up, you know instantly if you can command a room or not. And it's a very important thing. I think anyone who is thinking about going into cabaret before jumping right on the boards, I would suggest doing the piano bar circuit, getting out there, do open mics, see if you can command the room.
Yeah, I mean, I love hearing you say that, because what happened was, you know, I was associate director all these years, and I was missing singing so much. Singing was just not happening. And my grandmother would say, "Oh, Seth, are you singing anywhere?" And I was like, "No, I'm not doing that anymore." And she'd say, "Seth, you're meant to be a singer. You need to be singing. If you don't sing, God's going to take that talent away from you. You know, your gift away from you."
Mm-hmm.
So at a certain point, I was like, "Oh my God, I'm spending so many nights at these piano bars." And what started to happen is that, you know, I wasn't getting up and singing "Corner of the Sky." I got up and I would say, "Can I sing Stormy Weather?" or "The Man That Got Away." And I was like, "Oh, wait a second. I know how to sing this kind of song. This is the kind of song I can do." And then when you talk about commanding the room, so I would go to the Townhouse is my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
But Rick Unterberg, who was the main pianist there on Thursday, Friday, Saturdays, and Sundays, was my first friend who died of COVID last year.
Yes, I know. God bless him.
Just so sad. But he could play any song, any key, and it was with him I started singing, you know, "Sing with the Strings of My Heart" and "The Man That Got Away," and we built up all these Judy songs we had together. When I came in, when I would go up to sing, the room would stop. And I'm self-aggrandizing. I'm saying the room would stop. And that's when I started to realize, maybe I've got something here. Maybe I can be a singer.
Now, I will tell you, I mean, it's very interesting. I made my cabaret, and you can all Google this or look it up, but I made my cabaret debut as Judy Garland at Don't Tell Mama. I did that for just a short period in my time. I loved doing it. The audience response was great, but I found that a lot of the interviewers and the press people at the time wanted to lead with the tragedy of Judy Garland. And I was always about celebrating her. And I know that that's what you do as well. It's one thing, I mean, there's a cliche about being a gay man performing the music of Judy Garland, but what is it with you that makes it a little bit different from what a lot of people have done or have tried to do? You have made a huge success out of this.
Oh, well, thank you. I don't know if I would say that, but
Well, I will.
I mean, I think one thing is, and I don't know, actually, I'm sure that people have done it, but I think most guys who have done Judy shows usually do it as her. And you know, I don't try to impersonate her on any level. I'm singing as myself. Now, as you know, and it's very clear, I'm very influenced by them, and I sometimes I think have a weird channeling of it, but it is not an impersonation. It is absolutely not focused on her tragedy. It is my show, my act that I do about her is all about her music and her talent leading me from Paris, Texas to New York to today on stage. And, you know, she continues to change. So, you know, it was the Judy who got me into entertainment. It was Liza, you know, who brought me to New York. It was Judy who got me to sing again. And then it was my Judy Garland show that I did at 54 that got me a little bit of attention. And then last summer, you might have seen them. We'll talk about it in a minute.
Well,
But
don't go there. I want to go back.
okay, all right.
Because we're definitely going to get there. I know exactly where you're going. I want to talk about your show at Feinstein's 54 Below. That was the show when I first became familiar with who you are. Can you talk about the genesis of that show, how you put your team together, how you got booked at Feinstein's 54 Below, and the aftermath of the success of that show?
Sure. So it goes back to the piano bars. I was singing all these songs, and I asked Rick one day. I said, "Well, what would you think if would you consider putting an act together with me?" And I said, we could, maybe we could do it at Don't Tell Mama, and then maybe we could do it at gay resorts and venues. And he was like, oh, he hemmed and he hawed, and he just didn't feel like he wanted to do it. And then I don't remember at which point he said to me, he came back and he said, I talked to my shrink about this. I don't know why I said no to this idea, because he said, I'm just not stuck here, but he didn't want to jeopardize his 4 nights at Townhouse, his income. So, and I was like, well, I think you're overthinking it. But so I ran without him, and I thought, well, what's the best way to do this? I called my friend Mark Hartman, who has often been my musical director. He wasn't available to do it, but he said, he gave me some advice. He told me who to call. And I went to my friend Matt Ament, who is, I think is the boy wonder, the boy genius, music director, arranger, orchestrator, who hasn't had his, he hasn't orchestrated his big Broadway show yet, but when he does, I mean, he's just amazing. So I known him from, I directed a benefit that he was music director of and threw together a band last minute. Mm-hmm. And I called him and I said, hey, will you come to me to the Townhouse? I have this idea and I want you to hear me sing these songs and see if it means anything to you. And I kind of want to do a show with a band. And so he came with me to Townhouse one night and I sang some songs and he was like, okay, I'm down. We'll do it. And it was all serendipity, because normally it's the kind of thing you would do with a piano as a pianist that, But I was out here on Fire Island with my friend Andrew Tobias. Andrew Tobias is he's one of my best friends, and he was one of the original investors in Nonsense, but he was also the treasurer of the DNC for a long time, and he wrote a famous coming out novel called The Best Little Boy in the World, which changed a lot of, which was a formative experience for a lot of young gay people at that time. So anyway, but he helps people out. He backs people sometimes. And I happened to just mention to him, I said, well, I've got this idea. Well, he said, what is it? And I said, it's a concert about my lifelong obsession with Judy Garland, where I sing her songs. And he said, well, how much will it cost? And I was like, I don't know. I have to look into that. And he said, I'll back it. Okay. Okay. So, so then I call, I'd known Jennifer Ashley Tepper for years, who, books the spaces at 54 Below. And we worked together on the Sondheim 80th birthday concert. We were both assistant PAs. And I said, listen, I know that you don't think of me as a singer, but I think I can fill the room with my friends and put on a good show. And she came back and said, okay, here are the dates. And the date, it was 1 month later, I think. 1 month. I was like, okay, you've got to do this. I mean, I hadn't written a single line of dialogue or patter or anything. And I said, all right, let's go. So it ended up being a 7-piece band, which my friend Matt Ament orchestrated brilliantly. And I got with my friend who's a director, and my friend Lisa Lambert, who wrote the lyrics for the Jazzy Chaperone.
Yes.
Because another thing I've always liked to do are parody lyrics. And so I like to make the songs, I don't like to make fun of them, but I like to make them personal to my life. Mm-hmm. So, for example, in my show, the running thing gag is, instead of I was born in a trunk in the Princess Theater in Pocatello, Idaho, my running thing is I was born in a truck outside Paris, Texas, in the middle of the Bible Belt.
That's great.
And so, so we put together this medley, and I told us the story about discovering Judy and wanting to drive her around a tractor like she did, and being obsessed with her, and growing up on our farm and milking cows and singing Judy Garland songs. It was all slightly exaggerated, but that was the concept. But the thing about this is that I was not trying to become a performer again. Really, I was going to do a one night only stunt for all my friends with a band.
Stop. You thought this was a stunt?
I thought it was a stunt.
That's amazing. Wow.
My friend Lonnie Price, for his 40th birthday, I think it was his 40th, he did something similar. He got an orchestra together, and his party was everyone came, and he conducted all his favorite overtures. He's never conducted anything in his life. That was just something he did. It was just this crazy thing that he did for his friends. And I thought, I think I'm going to do something crazy similar like that too.
So, I mean, that first night, what was the response that you got? And did it surprise you in any way? Did you have any press in the audience?
I don't think we had any press. I knew almost everyone there. So, of course, they were very, very, supportive and but I was incredibly nervous. It was a terribly awkward, jittery, performance. I hadn't been on stage by myself ever, really, and I was relieved. What's that?
I said you started at the top. Or below.
So everyone had to tell me it was a great night and I did a great job, but what are they going to tell? If it wasn't, then they weren't going to say. So I didn't know what to believe.
Well, I'm going to assume that the deciding factor was Jennifer coming and saying, we want to offer you a run here at Fine Stands 54 Below. Is that what happened?
Yes. Well, not a run, but an additional show.
Okay.
And I thought, oh God, I would love to get to do this again, but is anybody going to come? And I worked really hard to promote it, and a lot of my friends came again. Mm-hmm. But that second time, a lot of new people came, and we sold it out again. And of course, the club just likes in the end having a full room. They like the money, right? I mean, obviously they want the show to be good, but it's in their interest if we're filling it. But something started to happen after the second show, where people started talking about it. I don't think I had gotten a review yet, because I think after the second show is when I met Scott Gorenstein. Mm-hmm. Someone had seen my show and said to Scott and to me, they said, we think that you guys really should know each other. And so we got together, and I thought, oh, I'm meeting with Liza Minnelli's publicist. Like, what's going on? I didn't think he was going to actually help me. But he did. And so he generated some press and got some people to start coming, and I started getting reviews. And they were all very good, to my relief. And I thought one day, oh my God, I'm a singer now.
Absolutely. Well, what was the next major thing that happened after Scott Gorenstein jumped on the bandwagon?
I guess the big thing that happened was, well, he talked me into doing, and he's like, well, he talked me into doing another show. He's like, okay, you've done your Judy shows. I think I did 8 or 9 of them at Feinstein's. He's like, so what are you going to do next? And I was like, well, the obvious choice and the most, a selling choice would be a Liza tribute. So I decided to write a show about Liza, and we did the same sort of thing. And that went very well. And then I guess the next major thing that happened was that I got a New York Times profile. Not a big, long one, but in the thing that says, who's up next or something in the art section.
Right.
And that was I was like, oh my God, I'm in the New York Times. I had a review by Rex Reed in the Observer that was very positive. So, said people started talking about it.
Well, it's very funny that you mentioned Rex Reed, because this morning I listened to an interview of Judy Garland interviewing Rex Reed. Have you heard that interview?
No.
I'll send it to you. But it is on YouTube, everyone. Judy Garland interviews Rex Reed. So you can go and look at that. When did you start getting booked outside of New York City? That you started playing the other resorts, Fire Island, Provincetown, a lot of the gay destinations. When did they start to happen for you?
I guess about the time I got of the New York Times profile and the Liza show. I went up to Provincetown and did a couple shows. It doesn't always go well. If you don't have a Broadway credit and you're not a star, you weren't on American Idol. You go to some cities and they don't know who you are. It's a hard sell. So one of the places that booked me was Feinstein's at the Nico, which was in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd never been to San Francisco, and but there were low ticket sales, so we had to cancel it. Scott Gornstein has been a great person on my team, and so he would send my reviews to for example, Crazy Cox in London, which is called Live at Zaydale.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I guess if you send people, a package with lots of reviews and say he sells out in New York all the time, they'll book you. And I went to London and did a show, and it was sold out. So it's always a gamble. I don't know how it works to go to San Francisco and nobody comes, and you go to London and you're sold out.
It's a crapshoot. You never know. How did that moment, define you, either as an artist or as a performer? I also have been in that situation. I was booked in Chicago. I told them that I had never been to Chicago. I didn't know one solitary soul. They said, don't worry, we'll promote it. And I am sitting in the dressing room in Chicago when they came in and said, you're not doing a show tonight. There's nobody here. And it is soul crushing. How do you get, for you personally, how did you get beyond that?
Well, I was relieved to not have to do a show for an empty audience. That was the first thing. I already had my plane booked, so I went out and had my first visit to San Francisco. I didn't have to worry about performing. But it was a little bit, it was sort of like, okay, the reality settles in and you think, okay, well, I can't just go perform anywhere. It's only a New York thing, and it's a very niche New York thing, and it's never going to be anything more than that. And that was sort of where my brain went there at that time.
Mm-hmm. Now,
and I still think it is, but go ahead.
Now, when you went to Provincetown, because I performed in Provincetown many times, many years.
Where did you perform?
Well, I performed at the Crown and Anchor the first time I was there, but I was booked when they first started doing Cabaret Fest there, and I was booked as a headliner and completely sold out, and it was an incredible experience. It was for one night only, and because of that, I got a booking there. I love performing at the Crown and Anchor, and then the last time I performed in Provincetown, the circumstances were not so good, mainly because of the people behind the scenes. So that wasn't a good thing.
I know the feeling.
But you have to hawk your show. Were you out hawking your show yourself, or did you have someone doing this for you?
I did it myself, and I dreaded it. And I figured out the key to that is 2 glasses of wine, and then you're fine. Then you don't mind.
Now, I bring this up before we're going to talk about a few other things. You are going back to Provincetown. You're going to be at the Post Office Cafe, newly designed, I hear, new management, everything. And I'm actually going to be there on July 19th, sitting in the audience, cheering you on.
Wonderful.
You don't have to hawk for.
Well, great.
But, when was the last time that you were actually in Provincetown?
Well, that's kind of a fun question. I was actually just there about a month ago.
Wow.
Because we skipped a little bit about my summer on Fire Island last year, but
no, we're going to get there. We're definitely going to get there.
So I went there to make I made a music video in Provincetown that we're going to release next week in advance of going there, and with the hopes that I will have to hawk up tickets a little bit less than in the past.
Well, I will tell you this. I spoke with the person who is also working on this project with you, which I'm going to be interviewing next week. And,
Oh, great.
if he will allow it, we'll debut your video and get the word, get it. Well, talk to him about this.
Okay.
I do want to talk about these incredible videos that you did this past year. You certainly kept me entertained. Randy who? I mean, I would get your videos and they were so phenomenal. They were so much fun. I thought if anyone was smart with the Department of Tourism in Fire Island, they would snatch these videos up and show them everywhere. How did that all begin to happen for you?
So as I said, I love doing parody videos. I was stuck in my apartment. I was quarantining by myself in my studio apartment for March and April and just going crazy, frankly. And when it got a little warmer in May, I called my friend Andy and I said, hey, can I just go out to Fire Island because I'm going crazy here. And with the idea that being out here on Fire Island, you can socialize more safely because most of your interactions are outdoors.
Mm-hmm.
So I got here and I was laying. I was on my way here. I was thinking. I was singing in my head, California, here I come. I was like, oh, I should. So I did Fire Island, here I come, right there where I'm starting from. And I thought, oh, this would be fun to just do a silly little video. So I was laying on the beach one day and I just sung the lyric live to a track and posted it like on Facebook, just short little 1 minute kind of thing. And people just love it. First of all, they were starved for attention. People love people love Fire Island. People on Fire Island started to share it, and I thought, well, that's kind of fun. I said, well, I have all this time on my hands. Why not just try to do something a little bit extra? So I bought a microphone.
Excuse me. You also did one on the subway. Was that the first one you did?
That was later. That was at the end of the summer.
Okay.
The first one I did was from Josephine and Nathan Technicolor Dreamcoat was Mask of Many Colors, and I had a pride mask and changed, rewrote the lyrics and did this very silly video of me running around Fire Island with my beautiful rainbow mask, and that caught on. People liked it. I released it the day of Pride, I think, of last year, and then I was like, oh, I kind of liked it. I bought a microphone. I started to learn. I'd never used iMovie. I was using at that time before. I never used Logic. I was, a GarageBand at that time. And I thought, well, I kind of like this, and people like this, and I needed something to do because I was bored out of my mind. And then the next one that really, really took off was I did a parody of the Acta Santa Fica and the Santa Fe, but it was, of course, the Fire Island Ferry on the Old South Bay, and it was the whole parody lyric for all of these songs were through the lens of pandemic. So they were all about don't forget your mask or you'll be kicked off. It was all that kind of stuff. So I think people were just starved for entertainment, and actually I'm quite proud of them. I'm very proud of them. I worked really hard on them I just used my iPhone and my iMovie, and then the next thing you know, people are just sharing it right and left, and it has hundreds of thousands of views on Facebook. So then people are like, "When's the next one? When's the next one?"
I know.
So by the end of summer, I think I made 7 out here last summer.
They are so phenomenal. They're just really incredible.
Thank you. And it's because of those videos, and once again, I give it credit to Judy. Well, because my favorite one is Howdy Neighbor.
Howdy Neighbor. Because
I had a tractor out here, a small John Deere tractor, and I was driving it around singing to the neighbors, and it was all about Fire Island. And I give credit to Judy always because it's these little things like
those VHS tapes.
And those VHS tapes. Because of those videos and their popularity, I was suddenly booked in Puerto Vallarta for the winter, and P-Town was calling again, And now I've been trying to do something in Fire Island for years, and now I'm on June 26th. I'm doing a big concert here at Whitehall as a benefit for FIPAP with a band. It's almost sold out.
And
so
weren't you just there on the 5th? Didn't you do something?
I was singing at a fundraiser at a benefit for Sage.
Okay, and so the next performance that you're doing on Fire Island, which is almost sold out, folks. Give us the details on that.
It's Seth Sikes and in concert at Whitehall, which is the town art center here. And I'm going to bring a band out, and I'm going to do a lot of Judy and my naughty material. It's actually the weekend of Pride, which is kind of interesting because we didn't know if it was a smart thing. We didn't know if people were going to be out here for Pride or in the city. Was there going to be a Pride? Is there going to be a Pride? I don't really know. But if you are on Fire Island, yes, come out and see the show.
Now today we are celebrating Judy Garland's 99th birthday, but on March 12th we celebrated Liza Minnelli's 75th birthday, and there was a star-studded gala celebration which I watched. Daniel Nardizio produced this, but the grand finale was you performing "Ring Them Bells" on the beaches of Puerto Vallarta. So what did you think when they called you and said that they wanted you to be a part of this?
Well, the truth is it was a little bit accidental that they did, because the idea came up. Nardicio has been producing these live concerts, and he had approached me about doing one. And we noticed that Liza's birthday was coming up, and I said, well, why don't I do a Liza birthday celebration? I'll do my Liza concert. It'll be me and my band. And then I talked about it a little bit with my music director, and we thought, you know what, getting a 7-piece band in a small room, we weren't eligible for vaccines yet. We thought, you know what, this isn't going to be safe. So Nardicio said, well, can I run with the Liza 75th birthday? And we were like, and he was like, sure, and you can add a video. Little did we know it was going to become what, Meryl Streep and Nathan Lane and like Barbara Streisand and every star in town. So I'm surprised they kept me in at all. Frankly,
I'm not. It was a great closer. It was great.
Thank you. It was really fun to do.
And you just recently performed at Green Room 42. I unfortunately was not able to get there, but Howard Tucker, who's watching, called me the next day raving about you. Our friend Kathleen Hutt raved about you. And they're not the only ones raving about you, because you, so far, and there may be more that I'm not aware of, 3 rave reviews.
It's true. They're very nice to me in the reviews.
So
for someone who forgot the lyrics 3 or 4 times on stage, and was a nervous, sweaty mess, I would think they were very nice to me.
Seth, Judy Garland has forgotten the lyrics on stage. Liza Minnelli has forgotten the lyrics on stage. Every artist in the world has forgotten the lyrics on stage. So you're in good company. But what did it feel like to be on stage again after a year of not being able to perform, although you've kept your performing juices going by being proactive over the past year?
Yeah, and I was performing in Puerto Vallarta, but it was sort of, it was a piano only, and there were very small crowds, and it felt more like a piano bar than being back on stage. But to be back on stage in New York City with a full band behind me, with a packed house, it was like a dream. It was like a miracle, because I didn't think it would ever happen again for a while.
I saw some great clips, which I wanted to share here, but YouTube has gotten so they will flag you for every copywritten song, so that's why I'm not showing things here. But you have your own YouTube channel, and
I do,
and people can go and see all of these clips that you're talking about. So I know that you've got Fire Island coming up. You've got Provincetown coming up. What else is on your schedule coming up?
Fire Island, Provincetown for 2 weeks. It's not confirmed yet, but it looks like I'm going to be in Kennebunkport, Maine in August. Club Cumming is doing a series there. And then I'm back at 54 below in October.
Now, let me ask you, are you I mean, with this whole trajectory of your career that's brought you to this point, do you consider yourself very ambitious on the spectrum now that this is happening for you? Or are you finding, talent notwithstanding, that you've got these great connections, that are propelling you forward as well? Where do you feel that you fit in on the spectrum?
I think that I mean, obviously the connections have made a huge difference, but I think that I didn't accept the fact that I was very good. Do you know Florence Foster Jenkins? For a while, I thought that people were coming to my show because of something like that. Seriously, I was convinced.
Far from it.
So I'm very, very proud of especially the videos. And I'm over the last year or so, I've started to accept that I do have something that's very unique. And just in the last couple of months, I've been talking with my publicist and my team and said, you know what, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to go for it. So, it's time to make an album. It's time to just start thinking as much as possible, saying yes to everything. And I think that it's time. I think that to answer your question, I propel myself a little bit, but not nearly enough. And then I feel like it's time for me to start propelling even more.
For you. And I mean, we talked about the singers in the past. Who are the singers, contemporary singers, that you really love listening to? And is there anyone out there now that you feel someday I may do a tribute to that person?
So again, I'm sort of stuck in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. I listen to Ariana Grande for fun, to put her on sometimes and stuff like that. But I don't really. One thing is, in New York, you don't have a car, so you don't drive. And when I used to get into music, it was when I was driving. And now I listen to podcasts all the time, interviews, so I don't listen to a lot of music in general anymore. One of my idols is Rufus Wainwright, which I think is kind of funny because I would crawl through glass to hear Rufus sing, but I do not like his Judy thing. Which I think he's doing today for her birthday. But he's a singer that I just love. And an artist I love, and I love Jason Mraz. And I know there's not a lot of contemporary stuff I like, but I think, even though I'm trying to get away from being the boy who sings the ladies' songbook, I think I might do an early Streisand show.
Wow, I think you should. And I'll be there in the front row. Now,
okay.
Now we're going to play a lightning round game.
Okay.
I have some questions that people have sent to me that are not directly specific to you, but these are just some fun questions that people are sending me saying, I've been asking for questions, and if anyone's watching, please send me questions that you'd like to know from some of the artists that we celebrate here. So the first question is, what are the circumstances in which you most resist change in your life?
Oh God. I guess when I'm comfortable. Not a very interesting answer, but I don't know how to answer the question, but I will say that I have been single for a very, very long time and had grown quite used to it, and met someone I really like in Puerto Vallarta, and the idea of not being single anymore was something I resisted strongly, but I'm trying not to resist it so much.
Oh, good for you. And what was the best toy that you had as a little boy that you loved a lot?
I had a He-Man sword that would light up, and I would, do this. Probably not the answer you were expecting, but.
No, I love that. And when, you may have just answered this, but when in your life have you felt the loneliest?
I'll tell you, it was during the election week when we didn't know who was going to win, even though, whatever. And alone and sort of alone, mostly quarantining. And my father and mother came down with COVID. And it was just this, it was like the world was end. I didn't know if the worst president, whose name I don't even speak, was about to steal something, and if my parents were going to be alive in a week. And and I was alone in my apartment, and I was socially distancing, and it was very scary.
Are your parents doing okay?
Luckily, they both were fine. My mom was in the hospital for a week.
Okay, wow.
But she wasn't intubation, but yeah, it was scary.
Wow. God bless both of them. What one thing would you most like to abolish?
Racism.
Good answer. What is your strongest emotion?
I don't know. Joy.
Good. And when did you need the most perseverance in your life?
When did I need it?
Mm-hmm.
I guess it was all those years when I was missing performing and wanting to, and thinking, I've got to get back to it somehow.
And my last question for you is, what is the strangest craving or the strongest craving that you have?
Pickles.
Great. Well, Seth, I love you so much. I am so thrilled that you're here. What a great way to celebrate Judy Garland's birthday and to celebrate you as well. I want to thank everybody who joined us this afternoon. I realize that all of you could have been anywhere else for the last hour. So the fact that you decided to spend it with Seth and myself, I'm sure I can speak for Seth, means a lot to me and to him as well. So thank you for being here. If you are here for the first time, and if you're not already a subscriber to Richard Skipper Celebrates on YouTube, my hope is that you will subscribe. I'm always about celebrating artists. I never get gossipy. We didn't talk about anyone else. This is about celebrating, because I feel there's enough negativity in the world. And so if you'll...
Can I ask you a question? When are you going to get back on stage?
I don't know. It's funny because Linda Pearl just asked me the same question, and I said, it's not on my radar right now. So I would love to take what I'm doing here and move it on stage and to go back to what I was doing before. But that is with my talk variety show. I hope, maybe sometime in 2022. Let's hope so. I don't know.
Okay.
But thank you for asking me that question. But again, if you enjoyed today's show, leave a comment, hit the like button, and share it with your friends. Also, if you find that you've got an empty space on your calendar the week of July 19th through the 23rd, join me in Provincetown. And we're going to go see Seth. We're going to see Jason Dotley. And I'm also going to see Ann Steele. I'm so excited. Provincetown is a magical place. I very rarely take a vacation, so this is something I'm really looking forward to, and celebrating, continuing to celebrate you. I end all of my shows by asking everyone to go out and do something nice for somebody else without expecting anything in return. What I want you all to do today is go to Seth's website, and I want you to order 2 tickets for his show. Keep one for yourself and give one to the first name that pops up in your feed. And also reach out to your friends. As a dear friend of mine says, we're all in this together, but we're not in the same boat. And you never know what someone else is going through right now. So please, please, please reach out to those that matter. And if you're going to be out in a boat, make sure that you bring a skipper along. Now, I'm actually going to leave the screen because I want to make this about you.
Okay.
I did that too soon. I'm going to leave the screen, and anything that you want to talk about, anything that we talked about today that you want to build upon, anything that we didn't talk about that you wish we had, or just any message that you put out to everyone right now. And Seth, thank you for all you do. We love you in the community.
Thank you, Richard. This was so fun. I guess I'll just end with this because it seems appropriate to this amazing time that we're living in right now. Happy days are here again. The skies above are clear again. So let's sing a song of cheer again. Happy days are here again. Thank you for having me. Thanks for tuning in.